welcome to the GSL. I'm Tasteless, and with me is Artosis. It's time for the Code S phase of the GSL tournament. Woo! That's exactly what I'm feeling. We are going to have some pretty sick games. Earlier on today, we did Code A. Code A, of course, the one below Code S. Code A players trying to get into Code S. Code S players trying to win Code S.
And some of them just trying to stay in Code S. Some of them don't aim quite as high as the others.
So we already had one Code S game yesterday. Today, we have more to come. We're in our second group. We had some very interesting games. A lot of good TVTs. Some not so good TVTs. Some a little bit strange. But interesting nonetheless as we see the metagame of StarCraft develop and grow in this beautiful, beautiful game, StarCraft 2.
Yeah. Well, I am pretty excited for today's group because it is the FruitDealer group.
Yes.
Obviously, FruitDealer, our first GSL champion.
You should know who he is.
An awesome player.
FruitDealer, I think, in a way, quite possibly the most famous player of all time, for Zerg at least. Even though Nestea is, so well known, I feel like FruitDealer, for whatever reason, kind of overshadows him a little bit.
I would say so. During the beta, FruitDealer was actually winning basically every single tournament. For instance, there was that worldwide tournament where Damaga got second. FruitDealer won that.
Yeah.
FruitDealer won the Brain Box LAN tournament, the first LAN tournament in Korea. He won basically everything. He and Tester took down almost every single tournament in Korea. And then he won the first GSL. I mean, Kim Won-Ki, man. He's sick. He's so good.
Yeah.
An amazing Zerg player, even from StarCraft 1. Touching story.
Yeah, please tell the story.
It's very touching, I promise. Well, he was a very promising Zerg in StarCraft 1. In fact, he was taking games off of Nada back when Nada was still winning all his games, right? So that is, in and of itself, absolutely amazing. But then his father got sick, I believe it was.
Yes.
And his family runs fruit stands. He didn't have a big salary. He had to go home, help run the family business. That's why his idea is the FruitDealer.
Now he's back at StarCraft 2, repping that FruitDealer pride and taking out a lot of nerds along with him.
That's right. And winning a lot of money on the way. This guy has won sick amounts of money.
He's rich.
He is.
We should have been friends with him sooner, Artosis. But I guess we're just going to make do with Cass in his games.
Yeah.
But he's a serious baller. And, the other people we got playing today.
It's actually a sick group.
I know, it's actually really good.
Group.
I am MVP, a very formidable Terran player in StarCraft 1.
Yeah, and the fact that that is our first match, this could actually be like the finals of GSL 4.
It could.
Seriously, these are two very top-end players. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
MVP, awesome.
Brilliant Marine control, splitting against Banelings. FruitDealer's going to have to be ready for that. Also, we have OGS Xenio. Xenio didn't look so good in GSL Season 1, and then he started really looking good in the start of Season 2.
That's true. I mean, during the beta,
he looked a
looked
serious shift in skill.
No,
at least on camera.
No, it's true, though. I mean, I had watched plenty of Xenio games, played him plenty of times during the beta even. He was around forever during the beta, playing a lot, but his play just did not look any good. I mean, he was doing reasonably okay because he just trained so hard, which is really quite admirable. But during even the beta, Season 1, he did not look very good.
No.
But then he just came back, and actually the match where we were like, oh my god, was his match against I'm MVP. And
so here's our lineup. Artosis, take it away.
FruitDealer against I'm MVP, and then Xenio against Juke2Jung, or OGS Juke2. So these guys are actually on the same team now, and it's ZVZ. From what we've seen, Xenio ZVZ, he owned up Hydra, but then got completely slamizzled by Nestea. So that's going to be hard for him. But Juke2, he actually got 32nd place. He was the last person to make it into Code S.
Yeah.
Barely made it in by the hair on his
through.
chinny chin chin. So, his work is going to be cut out for him in this group. I'd be very surprised if Juke2Jung, or OGS Juke2 now, I'm so used to calling him Juke2Jung, which, by the way, is a play on Korean words meaning, like, die Thors. So, yeah, he's a Zerg player at heart for sure. Thors were really tough during the beta.
Yeah, those things were pretty good. It's funny to see how much the game has changed since the beta, by the way.
Yeah.
Obviously, we only know for sure the first two matchups. After that, we got to see who's won and who's lost and filter them down. We could have 6 full games today. Could have a little bit less, depending on the outcomes of the games. So we're going to find out.
Indeed we are. Well, I think it is time to look at the player screens, right?
Should be pretty soon. Of course. And, by the way, guys, before I forget to mention this, we expanded our servers. We have better bandwidth going out, basically. And that's thanks to you guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
thanks, guys.
Thank you, because that money that you guys donated, as promised, to
subscription
fees, to the premium package, did go to our servers. And keep donating money, please. In other words, purchasing a premium, because that's going to get our servers better and better. We know some people in some parts of the world had a tough time watching live.
Notably, I've read that a lot of Europeans are much happier with the bit rates coming out now. So
that's good.
Hopefully that stays true.
And we're going to continue to make it better and better. Just please understand that this is live TV broadcasted over the internet to, I think it's almost 100 countries now. Yeah, it's actually insane. So that's just a little bit tough to do, to have that streamed up. So we're working on improving. We're like the Ubermensch of TV shows. We're just constantly moving towards perfection here at GOM TV. So thank you guys so much for helping us improve our bandwidth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hugs and kisses. When our Korean commentators are ready, we're going to go take a look at the Korean players. But frankly, Artosis, I think there's enough for us to talk about that we could just go and start doing it.
Talk about these guys all day. We already went over FruitDealer a lot. MVP is actually, how do I say this? He's not the most accomplished StarCraft 1 player to move over to StarCraft 2, not by any means, but the most recently accomplished StarCraft 1 player, as in this guy.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, he recently made it to a top 4 of, I believe, an OSL, which, I mean, to do that in this day and age where StarCraft 1 is so refined and so amazingly hard, it's amazing. So this is like a top-tier StarCraft 1 pro of right now, not of yesteryear like Slayer's Box or like Nada, who more recently in StarCraft 1 didn't do as well. So this guy is a force to be reckoned with. A lot of people consider him the best player in the world. In fact, many opinions in Korea. If you watch
this guy play, it is pretty scary, man, especially in Terran vs. Zerg. So I don't know. Actually, FruitDealer could lose this, despite FruitDealer's almost impeccable reputation.
Yeah, no,
for being a solid.
This could go any way for sure. I mean, it's one game. It's going to be scary. Let's take a look at the players.
저랑 첫 번째로 붙는 정중현 선수가 제일 어려울 것 같아요. 테란대 저그를 제일 잘하는 선수라고 생각하고 있고 첫 번째 경기가 제일 힘들 것 같다고 생각합니다. 결승 무대이긴 한데요. 32강 경기가 제일 힘들 거라고 생각합니다. 제가 원하는 대로 이루기 위해서 더욱더 많은 연습을 많이 할 거고요. 충만한 자신감으로 열심히 시즌에 임하도록 하겠습니다.
제덕 형이 너무 연습을 자주 하다 보니까 서로 스타일을 너무 잘하는 것 같아요. 임요한 선수 팬이었기 때문에 꼭 한번 선수 대 선수로 대회에서 만나보고 싶어요. 결승까지도 갈 수 있을 것 같고 최종 목표는 우승이에요. 근데 항상 응원해주시는 팬분들 너무 감사드리고요. 2011년에는 좋은 성적 거둘 수 있도록 열심히 하겠습니다.
같이 배정돼 있는 정종현 선수가 테란들 중에서 저그전을 가장 잘한다고 생각하기 때문입니다. 아이드라 선수가 붙어보고 싶어하는 것 같은데 다시 한번 붙어보고 싶습니다. 결승까지 올라가는 게 목표입니다. 좋은 성적을 내서 보답하겠습니다.
정종현 선수 저그전을 너무 잘하신 것 같아요. 여기 자신은 있어요. 진적이 있는 곽하늘 선수한테 이기고 싶어요. 일단 목표는 32강부터 뚫는 거예요. 이번엔 좀 오래 살아남도록 하겠습니다.
And we're back.
Yeah, my mic is back.
Bet you guys wish you speak Korean. So we just had the players introduce themselves, give them a little bit of a rundown who they are.
Probably.
So there's not much time left here before we actually zoom into the player booths and take a look at our two guys playing versus. Again, it is FruitDealer against I'm MVP. I think this might be one of our best games today.
Yeah,
it might actually be one of the best group level Code S games. So
yes,
see me struggling there. Almost didn't make through that.
No, it makes sense.
That was
yes.
close. Yes.
I think that this is going to be absolutely an amazing group. It's hard to say who's going to come out. I think Juk2 he's a great player. I have really enjoyed watching his Zerg for a long time, but he is going to be a little bit behind these three. These three are true titans, and
I think so.
Yeah.
You know, Zenio and Juke2 are both on the same team,
Yeah.
so maybe Zenio's helped Juke2 catch up. We're going to find out. But I do believe it is time to introduce our two awesome players, our Zerg and our Terran player. So we're going to do that in just a sec here. See? I wasn't lying. There he is.
Here he is. It is FruitDealer, and he has bananas.
He had bananas. They're hidden by his portrait now.
Look at that. Season 1 champ. Season 2, round of 32.
That was
Huge
a big upset
there.
yeah.
Lost to Marine King,
Yep.
who made his debut.
Second place.
And then Season 3, round of 8, lost to Hungan Prime in a match that kind of FruitDealer lost for himself, if you recall. You know, he just kind of kept cheesing.
He kept all inning, and it wasn't working.
Yeah, he's
where
just
I
like...
think that it would have been... He would have been better off just playing a more standard game.
He went to Maga style. You know, that's...
Yeah.
When you go to Maga style, what I mean by that is sometimes there's these Zerg players that when they get a little bit behind, they're just like, no, I'm all inning. I'm not playing like this. Screw this. And they go crazy and they just keep all inning. That's something that we see a lot in tournaments out of the Maga as well as FruitDealer and some other Zergs from time to time. So one way to look at this is FruitDealer's biggest enemy is himself, Tasteless.
That's a good way to put it, Artosis. I mean, this is one of these guys that he's so good at what he does, but sometimes you might be better off playing the safe route instead of the risky one.
Yeah.
If you are, in fact, better than your opponent. Over here is MVP.
Yep. And a great Terran player. Did not play Season 1. I think he was kind of busy quitting his StarCraft 1 team. Season 2 went to only the round of 32. Season 3, the round of 16. This guy has actually got a lot in common with OGS MC. The Koreans kind of put these two on a pedestal, saying, you know what? These are the two players that are scary. We think these guys can win GSLs easily. And MC, kind of his first 2 seasons looked like the first 2 seasons of MVP, where he did not make it very deep. But then suddenly he just owned one, and there he was. I'm MVP. I think we're going to see something similar out of him. He's had a couple seasons warm-up, really get to know the game, and he could go ahead and start dominating any time now.
I think you're absolutely right, Artosis. I mean, another thing to note is that I think this is probably, at least as far as raw skill goes, this should probably be our highest level game
from the whole group stage.
I think so. Maybe.
Yeah. No, the raw skill of these two is unbelievable. You know, they're not getting here on build orders. They're not getting here on ratio and balances. These two actually, they know StarCraft. They can macro, they can micro, they multitask. They know economy management. They know what they're doing. It's going to be, maybe they'll mess up, but it's going to be harder to find things that they do wrong. Some games we're just like, okay, I am so sorry, guys. This guy is doing everything wrong here.
Yeah, I mean, that
but
does
these
happen.
two, it's like, it's going to be good.
Yeah. So head-to-head here, FruitDealer against I'm MVP. The maps that they eliminated, FruitDealer said, I do not want to play on Delta Quadrant. I will discard that one. And I'm MVP taking out Blistering Sands. Not too much of a shocker there.
Yeah,
those two.
The FruitDealer removal of Delta Quadrant, many people might be like, why not Steps of War? Well, because he has 2 Zergs in his group as well. Delta Quadrant plays extremely differently in Zerg vs. Zerg, so it's a good choice to remove that one because it's also bad against Terran. So perfect choice by FruitDealer on what he removed there.
There's not much time left. These guys going over whatever strategies they have prepared.
That's right. I'd like to point out one more thing, by the way, that is going to work in MVP's favor. He's in a group with only Zergs. And FruitDealer's in a group with Zergs and Terran, so he has to practice 2 matchups for this group.
That is a good point.
Yeah, he has to practice against Terran a lot because the other best player in the group is I'm MVP. But then also Zerg vs. Zerg, it's a weird matchup, so he has to practice that as well. Let's get into the game, though.
The countdown started. It's time for some TVZ action here. FruitDealer against MVP. Brace yourself for some awesomeness. To the north. Do I really need to give this guy much of an introduction?
No.
Probably the most famous Zerg player of all time.
DSL 과일 장수.
FruitDealer. Oh, look at that. Fruit, a delicious snack, very good for you.
Yeah.
Ask the FruitDealer himself. You can't not buy his fruit. In the blue, our Terran player. He was a former StarCraft 1 pro. I am MVP. Most valued player.
That's right. Very good StarCraft 1 Terran.
Very good ID.
Yeah.
We got two good IDs facing it off here.
Yeah, FruitDealer, of course, the best ID ever made.
That
perhaps.
is the greatest ID. That is actually better than Tasteless.
It's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna call it better than Artosis because I got pride, but it's really good.
FruitDealer scouting with his overlords. SCV laying down a barracks.
And he's gonna choose to wall in. You normally do wall in against Zerg with both Terran and Protoss because Zerglings, you don't want them getting in while you have just a few units.
Well, I mean, let's face it. If it just so turns out that the guy 6 pooled,
yeah.
Well, then this is just a terrible situation you don't want to deal with. I mean, one thing about walling in with Terran is that you do lose a little bit of minerals because that SCV has to travel a short distance before you can get back to mining. But
that's right.
I think it's a necessary thing. Double barracks.
Ah, interesting. This is, of course, pretty common. FruitDealer going for the hatchery first. Now, these are very close positions on the map. They are as close as you can get. So, IMVP's build is going to do quite well against what FruitDealer is doing here.
Especially if he applies heavy pressure.
That's right. So,
Zerg will have to control the Zelnaga watchtower well to spot Marines and potentially a ton of SCVs coming towards him.
Yeah, he's going to have to be very careful with his drone micro as well. What we're going to see here is as the Marines come, he's definitely going to pressure at least a little bit. He may not send a bunch of SCVs with the Marines, but he's going to pressure. So what FruitDealer is going to have to do is bring down a bunch of drones, micro very strongly, and it would be really, really smart if he makes a spine crawler immediately when his spawning pool finishes. So 4 drones coming down, chasing that SCV and Marine back. The drones, of course, are quicker than that Marine.
I think he may have gone too far with those drones. Backing up now 2 SCVs, that indicates Terran actually may very well commit to a bunker.
Yep. And there is a spine crawler. And 8 Zerglings are being made right now.
Terran will probably turn around now that he's used a spine crawler.
Yep.
And he does.
And a smart move indeed. You know, between the spine crawler plus any... As soon as you see that spine crawler started, you're like, okay, the pool is done. There's going to be Zerglings on the way as well. Suddenly, his defense is going to be amazing. But MVP...
He's committing, man.
Yeah, I know. He's rallying Marines right in.
I like the Zergling placement, by the way. He's not putting him on the low ground, so Terran won't see.
That's right.
And that way, Terran may overextend himself. However, you got to be pretty careful because the Marine SCV all-ins that we've seen are pretty scary.
They are
We definitely had a lot of games that were the same game over and over again. It was like we were casting Groundhog's Day. So he knows this is a strong strategy.
Dodging that spine crawler. It's not placed as well as it could be. And he's going right after that queen.
If he loses the queen, it could be disastrous.
It could indeed. Drones coming up to help out that spine crawler just in the wrong position. And suddenly FruitDealer looking like he may lose this game.
He's been breached.
Completely on that spine crawler.
Okay, spine crawler's going to burrow, but it takes a very long time when Blizzard fixes in the beta. So that is, I think Artosis, I do believe this is GG.
Game, yeah.
That's it.
Really no way for him to come back
misplaced.
from here.
You should not have put the spine crawler there.
That's it. He was panicking a little bit, didn't wait for his creep to spread out a little bit more. That's actually something that's going to be changed in the next patch. Creep is going to spread evenly so that you're going to be able to throw that spine crawler down exactly where you want it. But as is, FruitDealer is dead. Just the last death throes of a Zerg, throwing all his drones away. And that's going to be GG.
This sucks for FruitDealer. GG. Yeah. You got to have that spine crawler in a good location, and MVP has got to be feeling good about that.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, oops, spine crawler in the wrong place. I mean, you know, right now as creep works, the function of it's random kind of how it spreads out from the hatchery.
It doesn't grow at an even rate.
Yeah.
It kind of it almost comes out a little bit of like a circular
something
pattern.
like that.
It's a little weird.
But that is being changed in the next patch, so things like that are going to be much less common after that. But, you know, that's what the game is right now, and MVP totally took advantage.
You got to do what wins, man.
Absolutely. So FruitDealer has lost that first game. He's going to have to win ZVZ pretty soon here, or he's going to be one of the playdown players, which is not something that I'm expecting. I'm kind of feeling FruitDealer and I'm MVP getting through this group.
Well, there's not much we can say about that game. I mean, it was pretty straightforward. He just didn't have the spine crawl in a good location. Had he had the spine crawler in a location that would have covered everything, he wouldn't have had to use the queen and put the queen in such a difficult position.
Yeah. I mean,
honestly, when I saw the queen die, I'm like, okay,
no,
this game's over.
When I saw that the spine crawler actually doesn't reach the ramp and MVP notices that, it's like, oh, no, you need that spine crawler. It's actually crucial in the defense of the 2 barracks build. So there wasn't really much after he chose to put his spine crawler there. There wasn't a whole lot that he could do to stop what MVP was doing. Just kind of hope that MVP doesn't come.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at our other players. Because we've got 2 more in this group. It's going to be a ZVZ, OGS Zenio against OGS Juke2.
Yeah, and don't forget, leave questions on the GOMTV forums. We're only going to interview 2 players. Not the winner of every match, but the 2 players that advance. So, there you go. You might want to wait till a little bit later to submit your questions. There you go. We don't know who's going to advance.
We know that MVP has at least a pretty good chance. But
yeah, he needs like one more win. He should be
please
fine.
do not spam questions.
Yeah, if you keep on asking the same thing over and over,
do not spam the same thing, because trust me and Artosis.
You won't get picked.
Yeah, well, we don't personally, but we'll see the questions. Someone will see the questions. So please don't do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So our 2 guys, Zenio and Juke2jung, very deadly players. ZVZ and their teammates. And here's Zenio keeping warm.
Very strong Zerg player.
Known for one of the few players here that colors his hair.
Yeah.
A vibrant red.
I like that style, man.
Which is kind of an orange.
Yeah. I guess it is. It's kind of a carrot top.
Carrot top there. Over here, we got a guy who's very good at Zerg vs. Zerg. We know that. He did take out my teammate, E.G. Hydra.
He did indeed, yes. In Season 2, I believe that was. And,
yes.
Zerg vs. Zerg, he doesn't feel overly confident in it, but he's definitely a higher caliber player than OGS Juke2 from what we've seen. But Juke2 is the guy I want to talk about a little bit, because you guys have heard a lot about Zenio over the 3 seasons. Juke2 has gone out a lot earlier, a lot more often. So let's take a look at him in just a second here.
Juke2 is a guy who scraped into this tournament.
Yeah,
for
32nd. I mean, he just made it in. Just made it in.
Yeah.
But he is, well, we'll still talk about Zenio. They really don't want to. Korean commentators have a lot to say about him.
We have to kind of sync up what we're saying with the pace of the Korean commentators. So sometimes we're not in the right place. Here he is.
Yeah, this is the guy I actually want to talk about. All right, he was from the Jung team, which is quite a good team, but didn't really get as many players in. But here he is. He switched over to OGS, Spunky's team. A very good team indeed. A ton of players in the Code S. And this guy is actually really creative. He's one of the only Zergs that made all 3 seasons, but what is really impressive is his creativity. He does some very different things than other players. His solid play lacks a little bit. Yeah. It does, but he does some creative stuff where most Zergs are pretty much, there's like cheese Zergs, and then there's Zergs that try to macro. That's kind of it. There's not a lot of innovative players.
The only one I can think of that's sort of in between is actually FruitDealer.
Yeah.
He's actually the only one where
he's kind of all over the place.
Yeah,
that's
he's actually the kind of master of all those different types of play.
There you go. He's a champion. So, but Juke2, I think we might see some interesting builds out of him here. Not necessarily, but he has been known to, from time to time, do something a little bit out there.
Well, it's weird when you're playing against your own teammate. Especially, I
live in the same house, man.
Yeah, because if it's a mirror matchup, you probably talk about this matchup all the time. So there might be mind games going on here we don't even get to really fully see.
Yeah.
So a good question you guys might want to ask is, if they had to change their play styles, did they, when they were training against each other at home, were they doing different strategies, what they had planned for in the booth? So I know when I had to compete against my brother in the U.S. finals, he always went Mutalisks. So I actually decided in the game, I think it was our second game, that I was just not going to make cannons in my main, because I thought there's no way that
he'll do the same thing he always
do the
did.
same thing, because he does, and he actually just went Mutalisks and killed me. So that's
it's a guessing game sometimes, man.
Yeah,
a lot of mind games in StarCraft and StarCraft 2. All right, we're going to see this on Scrap Station. Ooh, interesting map. Steps of War taken out for Zenio, Jungle Basin for I'm MVP, but that's not I'm MVP. That's OGS Juke 2. He took out Jungle Basin. Looks like they both took out maps thinking specifically of the Terran matchup, which is interesting because there's a lot of Zergs in the group. But anyways, Scrap Station, we're very, very, very likely to see Hatchery first. I was going to start telling you guys about the coolness of how the ZVZ metagame has actually shifted. But I'll wait for maybe a little bit later on that. I think that it's almost a certainty that we are going to see just both these players go Hatchery first.
Well, I mean, the Scrap Station's a map where
it's so long.
You can't just really all-in rush.
Yeah.
You know, but you never know.
Yeah, the all-ins just take so much longer to get there, and there's not a lot of good rushes in Zerg vs. Zerg right now.
If you do get to the mid to late game, it gets pretty interesting, though, in ZVZ.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It's hard, though, to not have the game end by, like, the 26 drone timing Roachling play. That stuff gets pretty hard to stop. You just get this ridiculously overwhelming amount of units coming at you, and you kind of have to do the same thing, or something specifically designed to kill it. Anyways, we're going to start the game.
The countdown's begun. Get ready for some ZVZ action. Which of these OGS members is going to come in on top, and which one might be that close to getting knocked out?